Mr. President.
The Senator from Alaska.
Mr. President, I have 6 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and the minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I've come to the floor with my friend and colleague from Nevada, Senator Cortez Masto, to seek unanimous consent to pass 2 non-controversial bills as a bipartisan pair. The first is H.R. 2815. This is sponsored by Congressman Begich from Alaska. It is the identical companion to my Cape Fox Land Entitlement Finalization Act. And the second is H.R. 972, sponsored by Representative Dina Titus of Nevada. It's the identical companion to Senator Cortez Masto's Sloan Canyon Conservation and Lateral Pipeline Act. Mr. President, these are important bills to those in southeastern Alaska and in Nevada. Probably won't make headlines out of those 2 areas, but they are very significant and important bills. For more than 5 decades, the Cape Fox bill will finally complete the land entitlement for the native village of Saxman in southeast Alaska. The Sloan Canyon bill will facilitate construction of a water pipeline in the Las Vegas Valley. This is critical infrastructure for hundreds of thousands of people. These are House-passed bills, okay? So they can go directly to the President's desk to be signed into law. I mentioned that they're both non-controversial. Their pairing is also non-controversial. And there are no objections on the merits, on the substance to either one of them. Both have had full process in the Senate over the course of multiple Congresses. So if these look familiar, it's because we have seen them before. Both these bills passed the Senate by unanimous consent at the end of 2024, so over a year ago. Our cloakrooms on both sides of the aisle hotlined them again 6 weeks ago, and so that's what brings us here today as we're still trying to move them. Mr. President, we've kind of gotten to a really difficult and frustrating as much as anything, time in our process. People are wondering, they're asking me, those in the Ketchikan-Saxman area, what's the holdup here if everybody is supportive of this? Why is it taking so long and proving so hard for Congress to agree on things? And well, I don't have a good answer for that. I'm not sure that there is one. But again, we're trying to move non-controversial bills through a process that requires support and consent on both ends of this building. And this end of the building has said yes, and things are getting stuck over on the other side. And rather to point fingers and call names, I want to unstick things. I want to have us know that we can move these bills that are important in our communities and in our regions, and they don't get taken hostage, if you will, by the other body as they're trying to figure out how they gain leverage over something else here. That's not fair to the constituents that we represent. That's not fair to the lawmakers who are working very hard to try to advance their bills. And so I appreciate the discussion that I've had with my colleagues here on the floor about a way, a process, a dialogue that needs to be had with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And so there's a few bills that we are looking at today specifically, but I think it goes to a bigger concern that needs to be addressed in a way that is going to work for other members who are also trying to advance their bills into full passage by law. So my commitment to my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle and on the Democrat side of the aisle is let's leave from here. Let's make the calls to set up the sit-downs with our colleagues on the other side, in the other body, to talk about how we're going to move these in a way that is fair and does not penalize the members, the communities we need to do right by our own process, and I would just suggest that we need to be doing more than we are, so that we are not in a situation where we are waiting months and months and months to be able to see these matters resolved. Before I make any motion on these bills, I want to yield to Senator Cortez Masto.
Senator from Nevada.
Thank you. Mr. President, I rise today along with my good friend and colleague from Alaska, Senator Murkowski, to ask for the passage of both H.R. 2815 and H.R. 972. As you've heard, they've already passed the House. There's been extensive hearing there, work to be done. I also know that, let me talk a little bit about H.R. 972. This is the Sloan Canyon Conservation and Lateral Water Pipeline Act. This is the same bill that this chamber already passed by unanimous consent last Congress. And right now, almost 40% of Las Vegas residents and businesses depend on this South Valley lateral pipeline. That's one single pipeline for nearly 3 million people. And that pipeline is 25 years old. In 10 years from now, it will reach 95% capacity, and it won't be able to safely and reliably serve Las Vegans long term. This bill that we were hopefully are passing today will allow the Southern Nevada Water Authority to build a new pipeline that will improve the reliability and capacity of our existing water system. It will protect the water supply for nearly half of our Las Vegas residents and businesses. And if you're from the West, water is the issue. My colleague from California knows this. This is why I appreciate the conversation we've had today. Let me just say this. As the member of leadership in the Democratic caucus, as well as a member of Energy and Natural Resources and the ranking member on the Public Land Subcommittee, I couldn't agree more with not only the comments Senator Murkowski has said about our challenges and the work we need to do to pass several pieces of legislation in both houses to the benefit of our constituents, and my commitment to do just that. I also understand and respect my colleague from California. We work so closely on so many issues, from water issues to land issues. I understand his frustration. I understand his concern that there is a lack of movement with some of these important bills that we all need to work on together. So I make a commitment to him to use whatever authority power I have to get this unstuck, to make sure that we're working together to address your concerns, which are completely valid, and to move forward as quickly as we possibly can, whether that is requiring meetings amongst the bicameral, the House members of jurisdiction, making sure we're, as a Senate caucus, this is a priority, working with our Republican colleagues as well. I really appreciate you bringing this to everyone's attention in the way that you have, and I think it's important for us to continue to move forward together now to follow through and unstick a lot of the challenges that we are seeing with these lands bills and the bills that we need to get passed in both chambers. So I thank you, and I will yield to Senator Murkowski.
And we speak about the frustrations. There's always room for frustration around here, but I share the many concerns from my friend from California. 3 of my bills and ones that you also care about, and more that I have co-sponsored, are also pending over there. And so this is not just the 3 of us sharing that we need to find a path forward, but I think it is also an effort and a need to find a path forward, working with the House to move these bills forward. And in the meantime, here in the Senate, we need to keep doing our work, but we can't forget that we've got the other body that we need to have. We need to have a working relationship, and passage of the bills requires just that. So I think today we want to get focused on outcomes, pushing to pass the bills where we can, however we can, whether they start with an HR or an S, not caring about who gets the credit, but just making sure that we're advancing some laws here. So, Mr. President, as if in legislative session and notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Energy and Natural Resources be discharged and the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of the following bills en bloc. Further, that the bills be considered read a third time and passed en bloc, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table all en bloc. H.R. 2815, Cape Fox Land Entitlement Finalization Act of 2025, and H.R. 972, Sloan Canyon Conservation and Lateral Pipeline Act.
Is there an objection?
Reserving the right to object.
The senator from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, I've been down here many times and have spoken up in committee many times as we try to create a better way of ensuring that we indeed have a fair and bipartisan and bicameral approach to the consideration and passage of public lands bills. And I certainly understand my colleagues' frustration with how the public lands process is currently playing out. As I'm glad that they're acknowledging, I too share that frustration. But I also can't believe we can't create a scenario where the Senate completely cedes to the House the ability to pick and choose which public lands bills are allowed to be sent to the White House. Regardless of who's in the majority, the process has historically been both bicameral and bipartisan, and we need to get back to that. So as I said publicly, and as I've reminded them privately, my objection to these bills is not on the substance. And my objection is not an objection forever. And so I appreciate what my colleagues have offered to join me in this effort to push leadership of both parties, of the committees in both houses, to convene and create that process that isn't just going to be a fair consideration of my proposals or their proposals, but all the proposals that come from the Senate through Natural Resources Committee, give them a shot for consideration on the House side and proper consideration for signature by the President of the United States. So my colleague from Alaska, not just a member of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, but her leadership on the Committee of Indian Affairs. Not all public lands bills involve Indian country, but many indeed do, including some of mine that have been in the pipeline. Appreciate her willingness to bring her authority and role in her caucus to bear in this effort and conversation. My colleague from the Center of Nevada, a member of, not just a member of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, but a member of the leadership team on the Democratic side here in the Senate. I appreciate her willing to bring her authority and power to bear in advancing this conversation. So for today, I shall not object on these two bills, but reiterate my frustration, and I'm glad to be joined by two additional colleagues in trying to push, again, leadership, both sides of the aisle, not just the Senate committee, but the House committee, to establish a fair way forward for all members in all of our proposals. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield.
Is there an objection? Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank not only the senator from California, my colleague, Senator Cortez Masto from Nevada, as we have worked through this. Know that you do have my commitment to try to address not only the matters that are on your specific docket today, but again, to try to find a better path forward for all the legislation that means so much to so many of us in our communities. And I thank you for the courtesy today.
Mr. President.